Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible to everyone?
Good
Yes, sir.
afternoon,
You're
sir.
audible, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, good afternoon. Very good afternoon. Okay, we actually reach at the end of the discussion of structure and union in C programming. So today, I would like to discuss the last topic, or you can say the last important topic of structure and union in C programming. That is how we can declare a union and what is the difference between a structure and union. Okay, now, why should we use union over structure? And this I'm going to discuss with the help of some programming. And the discussion I would also like to discuss the difference between structure and union in terms of the size occupancy in the computer memory system, and how much size structure members will occupy and how much size union member will occupy, and based on that I would like to tell the difference between them, right? So after completion of the structure and union, I would like to discuss with you another important topic. Almost we have completed more than 90% of the syllabus of C programming, 95% you can say. So one or two topics need to be discussed, because in future while you are learning data structure in C in the next semester, you have to go through all these topics, and you have some little bit of basic knowledge regarding those topics. So the next topic after structure and union completion, I would like to discuss is command line arguments. How we can use command line arguments in C? What is the necessity of using command line arguments in C? And from several companies' point of view, command line argument is very important, because I don't know whether you know it or not. In several companies are coming like TCS, CTS, and they have their own compiler. They will come with their own C compiler where you have to write your code. Okay, you are not familiar with the environment of that compiler, because that compiler is not a Turbo C, not Dev C++, not any other compiler. So they will install their own operating system, and within that own operating system, they will have their own compiler. Okay, and where you have to write the code according to their question or their technical rounds, and then you will have to execute that code. And the most important thing is that in such kind of compilers, you cannot give any kind of compile type input. You are not allowed to give any kind of compile time input. You are not allowed to give any kind of runtime input. Okay, so I am not talking about for all the companies, but several companies are there, especially TCS, CTS. These are the major recruiters, and they actually use their own compilers, and where you can give inputs through the command line arguments only. Okay, through the command lines arguments only, you are allowed to give input. You are not allowed to give input through compile time or through runtime or through terminal or keyboard. Okay, all are disallowed. Only you are allowed to give input through compile time. So sorry, through command line arguments only. And how we can give input through command line arguments, that I am going to discuss today. Okay, so all the programs you have learned till now, all the programs can be easily executed with the help of giving inputs through command line arguments instead of giving compile time input or runtime input, right? So these are the two objectives, or two, you can say, the two motivations that I want to discuss today. Okay, so I have already shared my screen. I think the screen is visible to everyone. So I want to first discuss with you what is the difference between structure and union. So in last 3 or 4 classes, we have discussed in a very detailed manner what is a structure, how we can define structure, how the structure members or structure elements can be accessed, how we can use a pointers, or you can say how we can use a function array pointers through the structure with the help of structure. All the things I have discussed in a very detailed mode. I think the conception is already clear to you. So today I want to discuss about the union, another special kind of data types in C that allows storing of different types. So everyone please write down some important points regarding union, which I am going to discuss. Okay. So what is union? Union is another kind of special data type in C. Just like structure, similar to structure, it also contains number of members or elements like structures. It also contains number of members or elements like structures. Okay, so union generally store different data types as a member in the same memory locations. Write it down. Union generally stores different data types as a member in the same memory location. Okay. Second point is that only one.
Sir, would you repeat it once again? The point.
Okay. The first one is the definition. Union is a special data type in C that allows that is similar to the structures. That is similar to the structures. Second point, it allows storing of different data types as a members in the same memory locations. In the same memory location. Third point, only one union member contain a value at a given time. Only one union member contains a value at a given time. This is the third point. Only one union member contains a value at a given time, at any given time. Fourth point, it provides an efficient way of using the same memory location for multiple purposes. Fourth point, it means union provides an efficient way of using the same memory location for multiple purposes. Union provides an efficient way of using the same memory location for multiple purposes. I think all of you have written it. Point number 5. Compiler allocates different memory location for each member of a structure. Compiler allocates different memory location for each member of a structure. Compiler allocates different memory locations for each member of a structure. Whereas union member contains the same memory location at any given time. Whereas union member contains the same memory location at any given time. This is the point number 5. I will repeat it again. Compiler allocates different memory locations for each member of a structure, whereas union member contains the same memory location at any given time. The last point, it is similar to the previous 2 points, but I am going to tell you this last point in a more detailed way, that individual members can be accessed at a time in case of structure. Individual members, point number 6, individual members can be accessed at a time in case of structure, whereas only one member can be accessed at a time in case of union. Whereas only one member can be accessed at a time in case of union. So these are the, I think all of you have written all these points, right? Have you written all these points?
Yes, can you repeat the last point again?
Last point is individual members can be accessed at a time in case of structure, whereas only one member can be accessed at a time in case of union. So these are the points. Everyone, please read this point. Go through this point once. I'm giving 1 minute. Read these points. Go through this point once. Very carefully. Try to understand. Read it and try to understand. So I hope that all of you have read all these points, right? So after reading this point, I think you are able to understand that union, the major difference between structure and union lies how its members are occupied the computer memory at a given point of time. How they will occupy a computer memory at a given point of time based on the concept, or based on this concept, the main difference between structure and union lies. Okay, so there will be some syntactical difference between structure and union, not a very little difference. So in front of you I have written one code. I think all of you are looking at this code. So within the main method or main function, I have defined one structure code. I declare one structure whose name is sample1, and within this structure I have defined or declared two variables. One is double, another one is float. One is double, another one is float. And I declare one member of this structure as S1. Right? Now I will define the same structure, same template of the same structure in the form of union. So instead of struct keyword, we'll have to use, while we declare union, we'll have to use union keyword. It is also among these, one of the keyword among those 32 keywords in C, right? So union, then followed by the union name or union tag name, then followed by the elements of the union. So similar elements are there, one double element and one float element. And U1 is a member variable of that union, right? Now let's come into the occupancy of the memory space. How much this structure members will occupy memory and how much this union member will occupy memory. So what I have already written to you, the same thing has been defined in those statements, which you are seeing in front of you. So in C, union is identified by the keyword union. The members of union share the same memory location with the computers, whereas each structure member has its own memory location within the computer. So each structure member has its own memory location within the computer. So there is no relationship between the memory occupancy of double D1 and the memory occupancy of float F1. These two are independent. Independent means in terms of memory occupancy, they are independent. So double D1 will occupy 8 bytes computer memory separately, whereas float F1 occupy 4 bytes of computer memory separately. Obviously, I think you have remembered that here, along with the 4 bytes, extra 4 bytes will be added as a slack memory, or padding, which I already told you or discussed with you in the last class, right? So what will be the size of the structure in this case? What will be the size of the structure in this case?
16.
Any one of you? Total 16. Everyone agree with you? Everyone agree with it? The total size of the structure members here are 16, because 4 bytes is the size of the float, and it will add the extra bytes, or it will actually adding the extra bytes, which will be subtracted from the highest amount of memory bytes in the structure. So which data type contains the highest memory bytes in the structure? This double data type, which is 8 bytes.
Double, obviously.
Yes, and the rest of the bytes is 4 bytes. Okay, for in case of this float members. So that's why 4 plus 4, 8 bytes. So total 16 bytes is the space or the size of the structure this sample one is occupying for this example, right? Now, at any time of compilation, only one member of the union can reside in that memory location. So in case of union, it say that it contains, the members of union share the same memory. This is very important line. The members of union share the same memory. Now let's talk about the union and how they will occupy the memory space in the computer memory. Try to understand this very carefully. And the difference between structure and union is very important. Several interviewer will ask this question in examination. This question has come frequently. Okay, so in case of this union sample 2, in case of this union, so what will be the size of the union? So I have already told, union means the member union share the same memory, and only one member of the union can reside in that memory location. This is also very important. Only one member of the union can reside in that memory location. I've also told you the similar kind of points that you have already written in your paper. Only one member of the union can reside in that memory location. So at a time, only one member of the union can reside in that memory location. How we can identify which member will occupy the memory location at a time? This member or this member? So the member which occupies the largest memory, so that member will occupy the memory at a particular time. In case of union, the union requires bytes that are equal to the bytes required by the largest member within the union. Okay, and the union allocates fixed bytes. Thus, unions are used to conserve or save memory compared to structure. So that is the advantage of union over structure, that it will conserve or save memory. How? So only at any particular time, only one member is active or occupying memory space in union. So there are two members in this example. The first member will occupy 8 bytes, second member will occupy 4 bytes. But here, two members are not occupy the memory separately or independently, unlike the structure case. Right? Because in structure case, two members are separately occupy memory in two different memory locations. Right? So at a time, two members are active in case of structure. But in case of union, only one member is active. Now, which member is active? The member which occupy the largest memory space, that member is active. So within this double D2 and float F2, which member occupy the largest memory space? D2 double. So the size of the union becomes 8 bytes. Size of the union becomes 8 bytes. So at the first time, this member is active, so it will occupy 8 bytes of memory. Now you will say, sir, if this member is active at a particular time, then how we are going to access this member? Yes, we can obviously access this member. After this member is occupying some memory, suppose you have already done the work of this member, then this member will leave its space blank. Leave its space blank. So as a float, it can use the same memory space of this member, which will occupy as 8 bytes in the next case. So the same memory space 8 byte is first assigned for double D2, and the same memory space 8 byte after the double D2 work has been over, then it will be again assigned by making those information blank. It will again assign to the next member, that is float F2. That's why I say that only at a particular time, only one member of the union is going to be active, or only one member of the union can reside in a particular memory location. So can anyone tell me what will be the size of the union? If we print this value, what will be the size of the union?
8.
Yes, it should be 8 bytes. Why it should be 8 bytes? Because it always occupies the size of the largest member it has within it. But structure is quite different, because structure, each member occupy independent memory location. So the size is actually the adding or summation of the size of all the members within the structure plus the slack memory bytes or the padding bytes. But in case of union, it has there is no concept of padding, no concept of slack memory. So it has only one concept, that the largest member at a particular time will occupy the memory space, and that member, when the work with that member is over, then that member will leave the space for the next member. Okay, that member will leave the space for the next member. So let's run this code in front of you. So in the last two lines, I have measured the size of the variable of S1 as well as S2. Okay, I have measured the size of the variable S1 as well as S2. Sorry, S1 and U1. S1 for the sample variable for structure, and U1 is a sample variable for union. Right? Let's run this code. Clear? Is it clear to everyone? Is this output clear to everyone? Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Who
sir.
didn't understand? This is very, very important. This is very, very important. So if I will draw the same concept, if I will draw in terms of I think there is one. dashboard. So if we draw okay, so if we choose this pen and if we draw, so in case of structure, the example which we have learned, this is the first structure which will occupy 8 bytes for double D1. Total 8 bytes. So your double will occupy total 8 bytes. Okay, that double D1 will occupy total 8 bytes, right? Total 8 bytes. So this is structure. Now there is a float. There is one float exists. So the size of the float in the memory is 4 byte. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So 4 and extra 4 bytes will be padded. Extra 4 bytes will be padded. 1, 2, 3, 4. This extra 4 byte will be acting like a padding. Okay, this is a padded byte. Why the padded byte will require? I have already discussed this thing while I discuss about the structure size. Okay, to match up the size with the largest data type in this structure, it will actually adding or padding the extra bytes. So total 4 bytes has been padded. Okay, 4 bytes has been padded. So total size of this float variable in case of structure is also 8 byte, right? So that's why 8 plus 8, 16. The total size of the structure is 16. If we do the same job in case of union, then only one memory space will be created for the union member, which will occupy the largest memory. So in case of union member, the same two data types we have used. One is for double, another one is for float. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So first the double will be occupied here to use the space. Double will be occupied here to use the space. So at a time only one data member is active. I have already written that thing. At a time one data member is active in case of union. Okay, so after double has used this space, computer memory space successfully, then it will leave that space blank for using the next data type. So what is the next data type? Next data type is float data type. So among this 8 bytes, the float data type use only the first 4 bytes. Okay, so suppose after float there is one more data type, suppose integer. So the integer data type also contains 4 bytes. So it will use the that float will leave those fields blank again. Leave those fields blank again to use for the next data type. The next data type is integer. Then it will use the similar 4 cells or 4 bytes. Now suppose there is one more data type exists, suppose short int after the integer. So integer will leave all these 4 fields blank and for the use of the next data type. And the next data type size, next data type is short int. The short int will occupy the first 2 bytes. So in this way, only one memory location has been created initially in case of union, and that will be shared among all the member variables of the union. That is the main logic that I want to convey to you. I think this is clear to everyone. Okay. Now I will discuss with you next concept, that is command line arguments. Command line arguments.
Hello, sir.
Yes, follow.
Actually, when we assign the value, when we assign the address of float, and float is equal to 2.5, and after that we add the value of int. Okay, so it means it replaces the float address and it comes with int, that is let it be 2. Okay, Then after that, if I want to use the float, then it show me the output or not, because we removed his address.
Look, I won't understand your question. You can send me.
I am saying no.
Huh.
I'm saying like we just remove his address. Okay, so there is no value present in it.
Remove his address
Okay.
means how you can remove the address?
No, means it's at a blank space. It's just adding his address. Okay, like that, no.
Blank space means if the memory space is available, then only that integer will occupy some address.
Okay, so it normal question like int like float is equal to 2.5 and like float a is equal to 2.5 and int b is equal to 2.
Yes.
Okay, and
Float occupy
if I
4
want,
bytes, integer also occupy 4 bytes.
okay, and
Okay.
if I want to use float b, then it print the value or not?
For which case, structure or union?
Union.
Yes, it will print the values. Look, first which member you will declare. First, which member you are using or you will declare. That you will have to that will occupy the memory space initially. Now, when your accessing of that particular member is over, then that same memory space will be occupied by the next member, that is integer. Okay, so here in my architecture, integer, float, or are same bytes. Okay, 4 bytes. Okay, so in this example, so let me just show you a similar kind. Suppose if you want to access the union, I'm not talking about the structure. All the other things of the union is equivalent to the structure. Okay, so if you want to access the value of the union, suppose E1 dot the value is double, right? D2. So D2 is 17 point, suppose 88. Suppose, okay. And then again, I'm just using a compile time declaration. F2 is suppose 5.78. Now, if I want to print or access the values, we can do in such a way. %LF for the double and %F for the float, and we can print it as U1 dot D2, comma U1 dot. Okay, look.
Okay.
So similar concept. So enter this memory occupancies entirely occur at the back end. As a user or as a programmer, you cannot differentiate or you cannot say it. But at the back end, the compiler will differentiate for you. Okay. The other things are very much similar with the structure. So you cannot make any differentiation between structure and union apart from this size of. Only difference you can see while you're using this size of function in between structure member and union member. Otherwise, you will not face any kind of difference. Yes, union keyword is there and there is struct keyword. Only syntactical difference is this one. And rest of the things are very similar with structure.
It is just difference between size and it's not like that if a blank box is there and only one object should be in it.
No.
I'm just thinking like that. Okay.
No. Okay. Now the next thing that I want to tell you that is command line arguments. Okay, this is very interesting and as well as very easy. Okay, so the first thing that you need to clear why we use command line arguments. So command line arguments is also called command line inputs. Command line argument is also known as command line inputs. That means you are providing your inputs through the command when you are calling your function or running your function. At the similar time, you will provide the input. Let's try to understand. Command line input is quite different from compile time input, which you are declared while you are writing your code. And it is also different from the runtime input, which you are declared after running the code. That means when you will press the running button, then it will demand the value for you. So that is the difference between compile time and runtime. Command line argument it is just in between of compile time input and runtime input. It is working just between of compile time input and runtime input. That means before pressing the run button, you will have to provide the input. Before pressing the run button, you will have to provide the input. And one important thing that all of you please remember, we cannot apply command line arguments in this C++ compiler. We cannot use command line arguments programs in case of C++ compiler, because it will not give you such an environment where you can give input in command line. Okay, but in GCC compiler, if anyone of you are using a Linux or Unix environment to run your C code in GCC compiler, you can definitely use command line argument. That is a very interesting. That is the most important compiler by the help of which you are able to understand command line arguments, right? So how GCC compiler is actually working, I think those who are using, they can familiar with these things. GCC, then space your program name. Okay, your program name dot C. So in this way, your GCC compiler program will run, and then this is the compile. This is the compilation of the GCC compiler. And after that, if you want to run or execute, you will have to write ./a.out. Okay, this is a general way. You can change the program name with the a.out. Instead of a.out, you can write program.out. If you have to use the option -o, that I am not going to go into the details of it. Okay, so this is the way of how you can access the GCC compiler or the Linux compiler to access to run your C code. So this is for compilation. It will only do the compilation of your code. Compilation means it will check whether it is any kind of syntactical error is there or not, or any kind of suppose any kind of compile time error is occurred or not. That means you have missing the first bracket, you are missing the double quotes, any kind of symbolical error, so syntactical error is occurred or not, that it will check. And this will check any kind of logical error or not. If there is no logical error exists, then after executing this line ./a.out, the compiler will show you the output. The compiler will execute the program and show you the output if there is no logical error or runtime error. And compile time error means your syntactical error, if any kind of syntax related error is occurred during the writing of the program. So here you will pass the command line arguments by giving space, command line inputs by giving space, right? The first command line input, suppose I am giving 10. The second command line input, suppose I am giving 20. The third command line input, by giving space, I am giving 30. And in such a way, I can pass any number of inputs while we are calling the program or while we are compiling the program. So I think you can understand the difference between a compile time input while you have given, while you are writing the program. Okay, the runtime input, when you will give the runtime input, after ./a.out, then you will have the option to give the runtime input. They will demand that input from you. And in case of command line input, while you are calling your program or while you are calling your program for the compilation, at that time, along with the compilation command, you will have to provide a number of inputs as per your requirements. That is the Linux environment. If anyone are using Linux environment, they can go through it. Okay, Linux online compile is also available. If you want to use the Linux environment, then you can just type online Linux compiler. In that online Linux compiler, you can execute your C code. Okay, if you want. Now I have already told that we are not able to use this C++ to do a command line arguments. So here, those who are using Windows, they should use this GDB compiler. They should use this GDB compiler to check the command line inputs is perfectly working for your program. Okay, is it clear? Now what is command line inputs? Command line inputs is actually given within the main function. So till now, whatever main function we have declared or used or defined, we don't use any argument or we don't pass any argument within it, but it is wrong. Main function also contains a set of arguments. Okay, and those arguments are called command line arguments. Okay, so a main function contains two arguments, can receive two arguments, and those two arguments are called command line arguments. The first argument is argc, which returns integer type, and second argument is argv, a pointer to array, a pointer to array, argv array, and which is return a character type. So by default, it will return a string or a character type. Okay. So this v represents vector. This v represents argument vector. Argv means full form is argument vector. Vector means a series of values. That's why it's called vector, right? And argc, this is argument, and this c, can anyone tell me what it will represent? C. What this c represents? Anyone has any idea? Arg means argument, and c means count. Argument, count. That means how many arguments you are passing. If you want to count that argument, then the count is automatically stored within this argc data type. That's why it will return integer. Count is always integer, right? So that's why it will return integer. And for this kind of vector array, pointed to array, it will return character. So by default, this argv will return character. So your actual inputs are generally stored into this pointed to array, this argv array. What I have said, your actual command line inputs is generally stored within this argv array. So if you want to access the inputs of this argv array, then you have to use argv of 1, argv of 2, argv of 3, argv of 4. Okay, this 1, 2, 3, 4 you have to pass as the argument of this within this third bracket. I think you can understand what I'm trying to say. As an array, you will have to use this argv array where the actual command line inputs are storing. And this argc is generally used for counting the number of inputs you have given as a command line. Okay, so obviously this argv is more valuable than argc, but you will have to use, while you are declaring command line inputs, you will have to use both these two parameters as the argument of this main function. So this is how arguments can be passed in the command line. Okay, let's check it out first. Your conception will be clear. So this is our first command line input program. I'm just making a copy. Yes. Okay. Online GDB compiler. I think most of you are familiar with this compiler, right? I have already shown this compiler at the beginning of my class. Those who are not using any kind of installed software, they can use this compiler. Okay. It's a very useful compiler. This GDB compiler. Lots of different kinds of program you can use. You can also did all this kind of program. Look. C, C++, Python, PHP, Ruby, VB, all these kind of programs you are able to access with the help of this GDB compiler. Right? Now, let's check out this program very carefully. Check this program, go through each and every line of this code very carefully. So here within the main method, I have defined two arguments. I have already discussed what are the roles of these two arguments. I think all of your conception is clear. Now I have defined or declare one variable integer I. That variable will be working as a looping variable. So within the for loop, I actually run the for loop for argument 1 to argument c. Argument c means what? Argument c means how many arguments you are passing through the command line. That number will return in argc. So if you are passing suppose 3 arguments, or if you are giving suppose 3 command arguments, so it will return 3. So the loop will run for 1, 2, for 1 and 2. For 2 values. Okay. Now I++. Now then it will print. Then I am printing these 2 variables. Okay. The first one is argv array. So argv of y, argv of I. So when I becomes 1, so it will print the first command argument, argv of 1. When I becomes 2, it will print the second command argument, argv of 2. When I becomes 3, it will print the third command argument, argv of 3, and so on until it will reach argc. That is the for loop logic. And argv will return which kind of data type? Character or string. So that's why I'm using %s to support argv of I. And argc will return which kind of return type? Integer. So that's why I'm using %. I think it is clear to everyone right now. Now I'm just running this code. Look at the execution of this code very carefully. So in the bottom bar, you will get a command line arguments input. Look, this text box has been given to you for giving the inputs of command line arguments. So suppose the first command and argument inputs I have given, suppose 5. Very clear? So this 5 will be assigned for argv of 1. This 5 will be assigned for argv of 1. Clear? Now give a space. Now I am giving another input, suppose 9. So this 9 will be assigned for argv of 2. Now give another space. Suppose I am giving another input 7. Now this 7 will be assigned for argv of 3. Understand? So total how many arguments are there? Total 3 arguments are there. Okay. So argc will store 3 arguments separated by space. Please remember you have to give space, otherwise it cannot separate 2 arguments. It will consider 2 letters or 2 numbers as a single argument. Right. So 5, 9, 7. Clear? So I have to give character type here. So 597 is integer type. So you can give 597, so it will acting like a character. It will convert it as a character type. Okay. So 597 is acting like a character. You can give it. Okay, or you can pass string as well. Is your choice, or characters or words as well. Right? Because argv is by default a character type or a character array type, not character type, character array type, or a string type. So if we after giving these 3 command and inputs, if we run our code, sorry. Five, 4, 9, 4, 7, 4. Don't know. Okay, one second. Let me give you a string type first. Hello world. Okay, so hello is the first command and argument, and world is the second command and argument. Okay, let's run it. Okay, so actually this 3 is actually number of arguments. So hello is the first argument. 3 is the total number of arguments, and world is the second argument. 3 is the total number of arguments. Now can anyone tell me why 3 has been given here? The total number of arguments is generally 2, hello and world. Then why extra 1 has been shown here? Why extra 1 has been showing here? Can anyone tell me the answer? Do you understand what is my question?
For blank space.
I have printing the argc within the for loop. That's why it will give 2 times. Okay. So actually, if we print the argc outside the for loop, then it will give only 1 time count. Okay. We don't require 2 time count actually. So if we give the similar hello world and run this code, hello world, I forget to give space, hello world, and then 3. Okay. Now tell me, anyone can tell me why it will give only 3? Why it will give 3? Because I have passed only 2 command arguments. Why it will give 3? It should give 2, right? It should give 2. It should not give 3. Why it will give 3? Bolo, anyone?
Null character. Null character.
Nah, not null character. This is a very common question. Interview will ask why the argument, command and argument argc, argc integer will give an extra value as the output. Why? The reason is that the first argument will be considered. The first argument will be considered. No, not for blank space or null. The first argument will be considered as the name of your program. The first default argument is equivalent to the name of your program. তোমায় বলতে হবে না, compiler will automatically consider the first argument as a name of your program. So argv will always start from second argument. So that's why the first argument is a default argument, which is your name of your program. Okay, then the second argument is hello, and the third argument is world. So that's why the total arguments is 3. So in the same way, you can also pass number. Suppose the first number is 48, second number is 75. Run this. Okay, I am passing one more number, 99. Run this.
Sir, why for loop is not in the loop?
Yeah.
Like 4, just you return 4 and no Hello.
Bolo. What is the problem?
Why for loop has no this parenthesis?
For loop has parenthesis means
Semicolon means like your what this name? I just forgot it. Curly bracket. Curly bracket. Yeah.
so there is a one statement. Do you remember? If there is only one statement, we don't require the curly braces. I have already discussed it. If there is only one statement as a body of the for loop, you don't require curly braces. If there is more than one statement, then you will require.
Okay.
Okay, I have discussed
And
it. I have already
okay.
okay. If you give
But-
curly braces, no problem. It's optional. But if there is only one statement, and if you print more than one statement, suppose you are going to print another statement here, then curly braces is mandatory because there is more than one statement.
Okay, and if I note
Yeah.
this, then all these values should be.
If you don't
Okay,
give
okay.
any curly brace here, then the next statement, just after the next statement of the for loop, will be considered the body of that for loop.
Okay.
Okay. So is this clear to everyone? Why the argument is showing more than one plus one? Is it clear to everyone? This conception is very clear. Need to be very clear. Now the thing is that's why I'm
Sir,
telling from the
excuse me,
first
sir.
line. Yes. Ask.
Hello, sir.
Tell me. I'm listening. Tell me. Who is this?
Sir, I was telling why the for loop starts from 1 and not from 0.
That's why I'm.
Sir, why the
I'm
for loop
trying to
starts
say.
from 1 and not from 0?
Yes. I'm telling these things. I have already
Sir,
told.
why the for loop starts from 1 and not from 0?
Yes, I have listened your words. I understand your question.
Network problem. Yes, the network problem.
I understand your question. It always start from 1. Why? Because the zeroth arg v0 is represent the default name of the program. So we don't need to use any default name of the program. We need to use only the values that we are passing through the command line inputs. Okay, so that's why I is always start from 1 here. We will not consider argv0. Why? Because argv0 is equivalent to your default program name. So that's why we don't consider it. So here if we print 1, argv of 1. Okay, suppose we omit that for loop. If we print argv of 1 and if we print argv of 2, if we print argv of 3, we can print it. The similar concept we have applied using for loop, right? So we can print it 1, 2, 3. So 1 means 48, 2 means this one. So here we will write argv of 1 colon argv of 2 colon argv of 3 colon. Okay, and if we run this, so argv of 1 is the first command argument 48, argv of 2 is your second command argument inputs 75, and argv of 3 is the third command inputs 99. Okay, now if anyone will print argv of 0, let's check it out. What will be the output? Look, argv of 0 is not showing here. Argv of 0 is not, you don't consider this one because argv of 1 I didn't print it, that's why it will show this one. But argv of 0 is not considered this one, argv of 0. It will give an execution command /a.out because it will leave for the interpreter or C compiler to choose the default value for the argv of 0, and that default value is your program name. That default value is your program name. Clear? Everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
Now suppose we want to perform addition. Suppose we want to perform addition of two numbers. How we can do that? addition of two numbers. Int C equal to A plus B. A plus B. And we will printf the sum is %d, right, comma C. Okay. Now we want to take the value of A and B from the command lines. That is our objective.
Sir, printf এর first line টা change হবে.
Yes, I will change it. I didn't change it yet. Okay. What is the main job? Our main job is to take the inputs of A and B through the command line. Right? So the first input, suppose 75, I'm giving. And the second input, suppose I'm giving 25. Right? So 75 will be assigned for A and 25 will be assigned for B. That will be our objective. And then the summation will happen and it will give you the total addition of 75 plus 25 equal to 100 as your output. How can we do that? A equals to, can we write these things? Argv of 1. B equals to, can we write these things? Rv of 2. What do you say?
Yes, sir.
No, we cannot write these things. Why we cannot write? It will give error. Not error, it will give you a wrong value. Take it.
Because it is character type.
It is giving error. Sorry. First we have to declare the int A, int B. Okay, so it will give some kind of garbage value to you. Why? The one guy has already told the answer. Argv is a character array type. So by default, it will take the input in the form of characters or strings. So here, if we take the input in the form of character or string, obviously addition is not possible. So we have to convert it into a corresponding integer. And for the conversion, we'll have to use a special function atoi. ATOI. Remember these things. Atoi. ATOI. Okay. So atoi means conversion from integer, from character to integers. And this atoi function is defined within the header file stdlib.h. You have to include this header file because the atoi function is defined within this header file. Now we will run this for 75 and 25. Is it clear? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we will stop our session here. Okay. So in the next class, we will continue with the discussion of more programs of this command line argument. So everyone, please practice it. Practice it at your home. Okay. Otherwise, in the next class, you won't understand. Please practice it. So all the programs we can do in such a way. So I am taking attendance. Please give a response. Show 1 second.